Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 365 of A Yank on the Footy. I'm Craig Wessels, coming from Sandusky, Ohio, and thanks for checking out this episode. This is the fifth episode of my previews for 2025, and in just a moment, I'm going to be joined by Ben Reeve of the Hoops crew, and we're going to be previewing the Geelong Cats for 2025. Looking forward to this one as a Cat supporter, full disclosure. If you're listening on audio only, I am wearing my Cats hooded sweatshirt here. I've got Cats regalia all around me, including Catman's bandana from a few years back. Um, don't forget, folks, if you are interested in having your local footy club get a shout out on the podcast, make sure you reach out to me. Let me know about them. I love being able to share the stories of local footy clubs during the course of the season. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, I love talking to fascinating people about the game from all levels, from local all the way up through the AFL. So if you know anybody, or if you'd be a great guest, please reach out over at my website at ayankonthefooty.com or shoot me an email at ayankonthefooty@gmail.com. I'd love to talk to you. And I do hope you'll subscribe to the podcast over there as well. And hopefully you'll leave a review as well. If you enjoy the podcast, please check it out because really, really helps, being somebody who's from the other side of the world, who's trying to promote and share my love for your game. Gives me a little bit of street cred, if you will, street credibility with people if other folks who are longtime fans of the game tell others how much they like it. So let's go ahead and jump into my chat with Ben Reeve, and I hope you're going to go ahead and enjoy this one. I know I am. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another one of our preview episodes, and this is the one that I look forward to the most every year, to be completely honest, because I've got Ben Reeve back with me again, and we are talking all things Geelong, and well, are you excited this year, sir?
Mate, thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure to come on. I enjoyed coming on last year, but am I excited? Yes. It has been a very, very long off season,
Hmm.
and I can't wait. I think we've got less than 40 days until Geelong plays the Brisbane rematch again,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
preliminary final rematch. So I can't wait. Bring it on.
It's going to be yeah, I mean that's just jumping right into the fire to start out the year as well. So, um, it's something they do in like college football here or in the NFL. They'll yell, "Oh, this team beat this other one in the championship game, so we'll have them start out against one another next year at the beginning of the season." In week one. So it's going to be, I'm cautiously optimistic, and I'm sure you're pretty excited. Have you been out to do watch any of the training at all? I think I've seen you post some things online.
A couple of training sessions.
Yeah.
I did bring the camera once, and the club quickly said maybe put the camera away. So I was there. I just sat and observed for the most part.
Okay.
Did sit and have a chat with another interested onlooker by the name of Steve Johnson, who was just had a day off and decided to
Hmm.
come along and have a look as well. And he just asked if he could sit next to me on the bench, and that was
Yeah.
interesting. Chatting
So
about Bailey Smith and how he's going, and no, he can't kick still, and all this sort of stuff. So, but I guess the going to the trainings probably the thing I enjoy most about that is seeing the new draftees and seeing the new
hmm
recruits, getting an idea of what they look like, how they're fitting in, how vocal they are as well. Generally, when I saw them, it was literally a couple of weeks. I think they'd been at the club,
right,
so
right.
very quiet and still figuring things out. Still very very attentive with what the assistant coaches were telling them in some of the drills and so forth. But it's always good to get along. And
So speaking of Bailey Smith, I mean, what is he going to bring to this side? Because other than let's be honest, a significant uptick in female fans from like the ages of like 18 through 35. Uh, what's he going to bring to the Cats besides that?
uh, and his abdominals. A lot of poolside selfies. Look, a bit of grunt in the engine room, in the midfield. We need
Hmm.
that clearly. There's definitely a lot of question marks on Bailey Smith in terms of will he be back? Will we get the version of Bailey Smith at his best? A lot of players come to Geelong and do find a better version of themselves. They tend to find another gear when they come to this club, and maybe he before his injury, which ruled him out for all of last year, he was kind of struggling a little bit in a different role at the Bulldogs, and a change of scenery was looking likely even before he had the injury last year. So I'm hoping he complements what we needed in the midfield. I know that Paddy Dangerfield is still an absolute superstar of the AFL, but can't do it every game,
every week,
all game, like he used to when he first came to the club, and in that premiership year. So we're going to rely more and more on these younger players, the very young players, and some of the mid-20s players to really step up in that role as well and have some more midfield time. So hopefully he stays fit.
Ahead, finish up. And speaking of younger players, is this the year that Jai Clark is going to take the step forward that everybody is expecting, or is he still kind of trying to climb out from underneath that moniker that he got when he was drafted? Oh, this guy's the next Joel Selwood, and he's like, I'm 20 years old. Would you give me a chance to figure stuff out?
I think I put a short video, a little bit tongue in cheek about is he going to be a future captain of Geelong, because there was a lot of that talk at the moment. Look, I think he's a fair way behind a few others, to be brutally honest with you. I'm happy to be wrong on this one, but I'm just looking at Geelong's list and mostly looking at the fringe of the squad. There's definitely maybe 15, 16 players that will be picked every week, no matter what. But there's about a dozen players that will cycle through this team. And there's probably another 10 others that haven't debuted yet, which they're a combination of new draftees and players that have been on the list for a year or two that haven't debuted for the club yet. So there's a lot of players that really will be putting their hand up this year. And I think the days of Jai Clark maybe that's unfair to say, he was gifted some games, but they clearly wanted to get some experience into the young kid, as they all do, as all clubs do with their young talent. I feel like he's up against it to play a full season. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen this year. I'd like him to go really well, and we'll see what happens maybe next year once he develops a little bit more. He's still a little bit slight in the body for me, for my liking, but he might have put on some weight in the off season, which we will see soon, hopefully.
Well, and if he comes around, that would be awesome. But you theoretically have a significant influx of bodies in the midfield if Cam Guthrie comes back healthy as well. I mean, this could be, what was arguably their biggest problem last year was, putting together a cohesive midfield that could compete with other clubs week in and week out, get the clearances that were needed. It could turn into a position of strength really quickly.
It could. Look, there's definitely a lot of competition in that midfield, which is fantastic for a club. If we stay injury free, and so far there hasn't been many reports of players being injured. Clearly, there's niggles along the way, and players get managed through these summer months, as it is in Australia right now. But no major season-ending injuries, including the blokes that are always getting injured or always being managed through the preseason, like Mitch Duncan and Jake Koljasny and a few other of those types. So far, so good. Jack Henry, no ankle issues this time around. So it's all going really well. It's just, you mentioned Cam Guthrie. Chris Scott and the coaches, they're very loyal to the players that won that premiership. I feel like Guthrie's going to have plenty of opportunities. Mitch Duncan will get lots of opportunities, especially in the first part of the year as he gets inches closer to his 300th game milestone. So there's just a lot of squeeze in that midfield, but that's good. That is a good situation to be in, providing we're winning. And we definitely will be contending again. We're a kick or two away from a grand final, so it's not like we're all of a sudden bringing in a youth policy. If the first half of the season we're struggling, that might change. But for now, we're winning. We want to win the premiership.
Right. And I'm really looking. I don't want to be so bold as to say that he's going to be replacing Tom Hawkins, but I think Shannon Neal, could be could become a very solid player and find his own niche within the club. We saw glimpses of that this past year, and he's a massive young man, and it's just there are some some great youngsters. You know, if Toby Conway, if his body holds up, you know, that's a kid that could step in, you know, and maybe put Reece Stanley in the position where, you know, being 34 years old, where he's maybe only playing a dozen or 15 games, where he's getting that time to rest his body and get himself healthy for the times that it needs to be. And if, you know, and if, you know, if Conway's, you know, able to play week in and week out, you could still rest him as well if need be, because, you know, again, he's still a youngster, and, you know, that he's going to be getting banged around, you know, by the, you know, some of the, you know, other bigger rucks in the game that might actually not be a halfway decent position right there with, you know, that strong veteran and the youngster, if he can just get out there week in and week out.
And Sam DeConning was tried a lot in the ruck last year as
Yeah,
well, but
yeah.
I'm not 100% certain that he's back to being a full-time defender, but my gut would tell me that they want to settle him as a defender. I still suspect that he eventually will become a tall forward,
Hmm.
especially as we transition away from Jeremy Cameron and, you know, potentially there's still some question marks on Shannon Neal. Can he take the next step?
Right, right.
He played maybe 10 games at the end of the year and kicked a goal and a half a game. So
Hmm.
no one's expecting him to be a Coleman medalist this year,
Right.
or necessarily go from a goal and a half to 2 goals a game. But we would like to see him become a regular in the side. But whether he
Yeah.
becomes one of the best forwards in the competition, which kind of, if we want to be a contender still, we need him to be. I feel for the kid because that's a lot of pressure on a young fellow,
Oh,
but
yeah.
uh, he's not going to be Tom Hawkins. And
No, no.
Tom Hawkins wasn't Gary Ablett Senior, and
Good point.
it's hard. It's hard for these forwards. They're the
Yeah.
ones in the spotlight the most.
Yeah. So have you decided on who you're predicting to be this year's Lawson Humphreys? You know, because let's be honest, nobody saw that kid coming in and becoming the contributor that he was. And if they did, they should be, you know, going to Vegas and, you know, counting cards, or, you know, telling people the lottery numbers and the sweepstakes and that sort of thing.
Yes, I will predict someone, but it's not someone we've just drafted though. It's
Okay.
someone who's played a handful of games and really didn't get a lot of opportunity last season,
Hmm.
and that's Mitch Nevitt. I think the
Yeah.
AFL world, a bit like Ollie Dempsey, it's probably a better comparison to Ollie Dempsey, who had been on the list and had a couple of games, but really played round one last year and didn't miss really for
Right.
the most.
Right.
I'm not sure if he had missed a game. I can't remember, but I think that player this year will surprise maybe not the Geelong people because we've seen him develop and we've seen him get bigger, put on more muscle. But Mitch Nevitt could be that one that may surprise a lot of non-Geelong supporters throughout this season. I think he's learned a lot. He's had to be patient in the VFL. The coaches have showed a lot of faith in him. They've signed him up to a contract extension, so he's got that security as well. And I think
Okay.
he's ready to explode.
Yeah.
I hope so anyway, because we need that next. We need a couple of players like him to step up, and he's a good size and takes a
Yeah.
great mark.
Yeah. I think I got him in trouble a few years back, when he was drafted. Actually, I got he and Toby Conway in trouble because I reached out to them on Instagram and had them on the podcast, and then I had somebody reach out to me from the club. They're like, "How did you get in touch with them?" And they were like, "Oh, no, 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 no. You get they can't they don't know yet. They have to go through us to do that." I was like, "Oh well."
Yeah, they're
So
enthusiastic. They want to
yeah.
they want to engage with fans. We found that as well. That we reached out to a few, and they were very happy to chat. And then um, they get a couple of seasons in, and it sort of goes a bit quiet. So, and we reach out to the club, and we're still waiting on a response from the club. They're not that willing to have us chat with the players too much. So that's
Uh,
okay. We'll keep working on that relationship.
and I haven't tried that myself yet. I mean I remember when Kate Roffey got named to be the president of the Demons. I sent her a note on LinkedIn, and I got an email back from her the next day. When do you want to sit down to talk? It's like,
Wow.
that would never happen. That would never happen in, you know, in sports here in the U.S. That sort of thing would never ever happen. So it was, yeah. So I've not reached out to the Cats offices and powers that be to try to do that yet, but I probably should. And, you know, this was the year I was supposed to be making the trek there. I'd pushed it back from last year because I had surgery. I was going to be coming rounds 19 through 22 this year, and Well, my wife was diagnosed with cancer back in November, so she's doing chemo and radiation right now. So I'm pushing it back another year. So it's been a very, very fun winter here. Um, Not really, but
Sorry to hear that.
we're muddling through. She's doing okay. Um, yeah, so they think they caught it very early, so the prognosis is excellent. We just got to get her through the next like 6 weeks of her chemo treatment. She's only got about 2 weeks of radiation left, though. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers
But
crossed. All the
yeah,
best.
yeah. But you know, are there are there any players that you're really concerned about their regression this year, or do you think that, or do you just look at it and you go, you know what, Chris Scott knows this list so well that he's going to rest these guys when need be, that we're really not going to have to worry about that?
Yeah, now look, the coaches are great at load management, and I think a lot of other AFL clubs are starting to catch on to the
Hmm.
idea. And it's not started with Geelong; it's come from the US. Clearly, the NBA do it really well, and it's probably not great for fan engagement. The fans don't really like it, but yes, it's really starting to catch on in AFL circles now. So you can see Paddy Dangerfield not playing 23 games this year.
Yeah.
Jeremy Cameron, he loves playing footy, and it's hard to keep him out of the side. But he's only, he's coming to the end. The last couple of years of his career potentially. Don't tell him that; he'll probably want to play for another 10. But he there could be a, especially with the big forwards, as we saw with Tom Hawkins, the drop off comes really quickly. So
Yeah.
one minute Tom Hawkins is an absolute menace, a beast. He's dominating, he's ragdolling players, and the next minute he can't kick a goal for a whole month. So,
Yeah.
so that can happen very quickly. I hope it doesn't happen this year with Jezza. We say this
Yeah.
every year that we're still a premiership contender, and we hope we can hold on for one more year.
Right. Right.
We've been saying one more year for about 10 years
Well,
now.
with when it comes to Tom Hawkins, was that more his, his foot injury that just was really bothering him? Is that was just such a bad niggle that it was impacting his ability to do everything that he wanted to? And that's kind of, it's kind of like, the thoroughbred horse that kind of broke down, and it's like, okay, we're not putting our key forward out to stud. I mean, that's not, but we're not, but it's, or putting him out to pasture, but it's,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I felt with Tom that even before he had the foot injury,
Hmm.
he looked like he'd lost a bit of speed and a bit of strength, and maybe maybe this is unfair, but to me to the eye it looked like he'd lost a little bit of confidence in himself because of
Yeah.
all that as well. So things just really started to unravel with his game. Like he was still there were times where he was quite good in games, but for the most part, it was a struggle when he was on the park last year, and then the injury happened, and yeah, unfortunately we didn't see him. Did have fear that when he got injured that maybe he wouldn't get back, and sadly we didn't get to see him again. We thought we might get him back just in time for the finals, but then it got to a point where the injury hadn't recovered as much as he'd hoped,
Yeah.
and Shannon Neal was going quite well, and the team was going quite well, and it would have been a tremendously brave decision by the coaches to drop Shannon Neal at that point for Tom Hawkins, who hadn't set the world on fire anyway.
That's a fair point.
It was just working well with Jeremy Cameron and Shannon Neal and the small forwards at that point. So I don't think they would have changed a winning formula anyway.
Yeah, and you have to think that, there may be some players in the league that might have been of his stature that would have been a little bit more adamant about, put me out there, coach, because I'm this legendary player, and he didn't, again, that was not his thing. I mean, you go back and watch him as a player when where he ended up with, opportunities where he probably, in just the 7 or 8 years, well, 2016, 8 years that I've been watching the game, there's probably 20 or 25 goals that he gave up for goal assists on shots on goal that he could have very easily taken and added more onto his own stats. And he helped other players out to build some confidence for themselves. I mean, that's, you kind of
Yeah,
the consummate team player there. So
yeah, you're right. Like he's clearly one of the best for the team, and
yeah,
probably brutally honest with the coaches, and wasn't you probably could have convinced the coaches that he was okay. It is getting a little harder these days with all the medical people involved in football clubs to,
Right, right.
to get coaches that you're fine. But as I said, even if he was right to go, would they have made the change anyway? I don't know. I mean, I think the Geelong people might be split 50-50 on that. Play Tom Hawkins, he's a legend. I don't care. Get him back in. Sorry, Shannon Neal. You've been good. Right. And we want Hawkins back. But I think maybe the coaches try to remove emotion from that decision where they can. And I still feel like they would have gone with Shannon Neal. That's just my opinion.
I'm looking at the schedule and the fixture for this year, and looking at who the club's playing twice. They've got the Lions and the Giants twice. 4 very tough games there. Yep. But then they've also they've got for a team that finished in the top 4, the rest of their double ups it's kind of interesting because they got a bit of a mixed bag. You got the Saints, and I'll be honest, I don't know what the Saints are going to be this year. I'm pretty confident I'm not tipping them to finish 3rd on the ladder like I did last year.
No.
And then you got the Tigers, you got the Bombers, and what are the Bombers going to be this year? And then Port Adelaide. And I'm not convinced that Port Adelaide is going to be able to score well enough, losing, Charlie Dixon was already being phased out. But then they also lose Todd Marshall for the year. It's like, how are they going to make that up? I mean, I haven't done my Port preview yet, but it's going to be interesting to see how they go about finding ways to put points on the board. I mean, they got a great midfield.
Oh yeah. They're well coached. I mean, maybe the Port Adelaide fans won't always say that because they hate Ken Hinkley, but look, it's a good club. It's a well-run football club, and they've got a good list, and they find ways to win games. They also find ways to lose games as well. But not that Hawthorn game. I know, was it the Hawthorn? I can't remember what happened. Yeah, it was that last-minute kick. Anyway, but look at Geelong's fixture. I think is generally pretty good. I think we're going to be relatively confident. Look, it's a tough start. We've got Brisbane in Brisbane. That's going to be tough. I suspect Brisbane will win that, just based on where it is and the crowd energy and all that. And we've played one less. We've had one extra week of preseason than them, so it's not really a huge advantage for us coming into that. We'll essentially be as fresh as they are, and then backing that up a week later at home against Fremantle, who I suspect a lot of AFL fans will have them reasonably high up. There's a lot of optimism for Fremantle this year, and they are a club that's never won a premiership. So, I mean, I don't love Freo, but I wouldn't be upset if they won the premiership if we couldn't win it. So, a bit like St Kilda, as you said, it's been so long for St Kilda, and they could be anything. There's a lot of teams that could be anything this year,
right,
including Geelong.
Yeah.
If you're sensible, you'll pick Geelong to make finals because we very rarely miss finals. But yeah, can we win a premiership? Don't know. Could, yes, maybe. It's hard to know. My gut says no, but I hope we're at the final again at least.
You go back to 2022. Did you think that was a club that was going to win a premiership in 2022?
Yes, I did. I did. Very, very early in the season. Even when people were saying we weren't going to win, I said it, and I was on that. I'd never budged from that the whole year because I looked at the fixture for the whole year and I predicted Geelong would win X number of games and that would sort of position us reasonably well. And I felt like things had just aligned for us. And I didn't know we were going to go on a 16-game winning streak and win the premiership the way we did. But we're all crystal balling. I guess I could say I didn't think we'd win the premiership last year, so I was right there. But I still get hopeful, and my attitude towards our chances throughout the year it's like a roller coaster. 1 minute I'm doom and gloom, and the next minute I'm back on board again.
Exactly, and I think that had they not fallen apart against Brisbane, in late in that game, and I think they dropped it by 10 points. I think that. Yeah, there'd be a newer flag hanging up behind me here for 2024 because I think they would have handled Sydney again. And well, what's your bold prediction for the if you're going to plant your flag and this is going to happen and people are going to say, that's maybe not a call I would have made, but what's the thing that you're thinking this is going to happen and other people may not be thinking it?
I'll do one for Geelong and one for someone else.
Okay.
I think Geelong will finish top 2 again, and that will really upset a lot of non-Geelong people that Geelong again finishes in the top two.
They've got their own home
Oh,
ground. They get to play their home. Oh, shut up, Collingwood. I don't want to hear it.
come and play at Geelong, Collingwood. I know it's been a long time, but
They're they're
come and have
they're their buses have like an auto lock on their brakes if they head south on the M1 too far. If they
so I think
get past Werribee, they just shut down.
yeah, like supermarket trolleys have those locks sometimes. Oh, yeah, Geelong will be competitive again, very competitive. I think we'll do reasonably well on the ladder. I'm actually expecting Hawthorn to miss the finals. I know a lot of people think Hawthorn are about to
Whoa.
take the
Okay.
next step. I'm
Okay.
prepared to go on a limb and say Hawthorn, because of their finish on the ladder,
Uh-huh.
their fixture is very tough this year.
Right, right.
So, and things were really rolling for them
Hmm.
last year. And as we know, football is a momentum game in many
Yeah.
ways, respects. I can just see a situation where things don't necessarily go as well as it did last year, and they're a young side. And as we know, with young players, young teams,
Yeah.
there's inconsistencies there as well with form. So I think that the challenge of a tougher fixture, yes, but they are expecting natural improvement from all those players, but we often see second year, third year players. There's a slight drop off as well. Coaches expect more. Pre-seasons get tougher. Teams figure them out a little bit as well. Every other team's had a good look at Hawthorn now and won't be writing them off. So
Right.
it's a tough one. So I am expecting Hawthorn to just miss the finals.
Yeah.
We'll see. Come
I
back to
have
me in a year's time.
yeah.
We'll see how we go on that one.
I haven't finalized my top eight, but I've told a few people this in preview episodes that I have a couple of clubs that were not in the eight last year that are going in, and I have a couple that I think are coming out. And one was not Hawthorn. I think Port may fall out. And this is one people are gonna think I'm crazy. I think Sydney might fall out.
Ooh. I think they'll drop off. I think they'll
Yeah,
drop off. I don't think they'll
yeah,
be a top four team, but
yeah,
I still think they just make the eight. So,
yeah. I
but I'm not surprised by that
No,
comment.
here,
Yeah.
here, here's my bold prediction for this year. Okay, I think North Melbourne's playing finals this year.
Ooh, that
I
is
think
bold.
North Melbourne is this year's Hawthorn.
Ooh. I would say I don't know if I've got the Gold Coast in the finals, but I'm
I
expecting
have them there too. Yeah, but we're expecting them to be there. No, yeah. Let's go back to Monty Python. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, disguised as the North Melbourne Kangaroos.
look, I would like North Melbourne. I don't like their coach, but I like a lot of their players,
Yeah,
and their fans have suffered for long enough. So it's
yeah.
probably time for North Melbourne to have a little bit of success. But I not at the expense of a St Kilda or a Fremantle. I think they're more due for success than maybe even what North fans are.
Yeah.
I do feel a bit of guilt being a Geelong supporter a lot of the time because we've had so much success and I want so much more, Craig. I just want it to
I
keep going,
I
but
don't feel guilt. I don't feel guilty about it at all. I made a conscious choice when I chose to support this club. Okay, I really did, and I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if I've shown you this or not, but I don't think I had it last year when I had you on. Let me see if I can find it here real quickly. I got new license plates for my car. That is the license plate that's on my
oh
car.
wow.
Yeah, my Ohio plates say Geelong on them.
Love
Yeah.
that. If
So,
you get beeped on the road, you'll know it's
well,
a Geelong supporter.
there's a guy in Kansas that has his, and it took him several years before they would issue them because they thought there was some hidden meaning with that term. They thought there was, some sort of like, double entendre with, that word on, they were thinking there was some sort of, yeah,
Geelong.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it took him a while. He actually had to, go in wearing his cat's gear, bringing in, copies of like newspaper clippings and such about the club and such before they issue his plates. And actually, one of his old plates from the state of Kansas, I believe, is in the Cats Museum at Cardunia Park.
Wow.
Yeah, I think one of his plates is there. So, yep. Now, I know you've got to head out here in just a couple of minutes, but we're gonna skip over the trivia for this year. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna ask you one question, one of the trivia questions. Okay.
Do it.
So, have the Cats won more games against the Bulldogs, the Tigers, or the Kangaroos in their history?
Uh, Bulldogs.
No.
Oh. My second guess was Richmond.
No.
Oh, absolute fail. My third guess would be North Melbourne.
No.
What?
They defeated all three of them 108 times each. That was a
Oh,
trick question.
my fourth guess would be that they've defeated each other 108 times each.
I figure I'd ask you that one since we only got time to do one question. I figured that's the one to ask you right there. So, yeah.
Love
Now
it.
they've lost more to the Tigers than anybody else. 92 times, the Roos 63, and the Bulldogs 59. But so they're almost level with the Tigers. But yeah, so
There
where
you
can
go.
people find your show if they want to check it out? And I know they should because you guys do a phenomenal job with your show in support of this club.
So our YouTube channel is The Hoops Crew, and we are all over social media as well. So just search
Mm-hmm.
for The Hoops Crew on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X. So I still call it Twitter. We've got a few shows coming in 2025. So we do after each game, we do a post game live. So that's me chatting with fans live after the game. It's a bit like talkback radio.
Yeah.
And we have Paul James, who's been with the channel for a couple of years now. He's starting a new show just on his own, a live show where he'll preview and review games as they on Thursdays and Sunday nights. And then we've got the Chaps Chat Cats who we joined with last year as well, and where their shows will be on a Tuesday night as well. So we've got a bit of a mix of different voices and types of shows. So yeah, check us out there. Jump on board. I think we've got about near 1,500 subscribers at the moment. So the channel's growing.
Wow.
Had a lot of players come on the channel and chat with us. We've had the CEO come on at some stage and have a chat with us as well. So it's a fantastic community of Geelong supporters. And we touch on some other AFL issues from time to time, but it is essentially a Geelong channel.
Right,
so,
right.
So if you want to see, if you're not a Geelong supporter and you want to see what Geelong's doing, by all means, come and have a chat. If you're an opposition fan and we're playing you that week, come and have a chat. By all means, after the game, win or lose. We often get some other supporters come on and brag or commiserate, that kind of thing. We're kind, win or lose.
Yeah, and you guys are not, as they would say sometimes in this sort of situation. You're not bomb throwers. You're not calling people names. You guys are very pragmatic. You're very straightforward. You discuss the games and everything much more rationally than maybe a lot of other people do. Because there are a lot of ones that can be rather loud and bombastic and that sort of thing. And you guys do a phenomenal job.
If anyone is loud and not loud and bombastic, if anyone's a little bit emotional and wears their heart on their sleeve, it's probably me on post game live. While I try to be respectful, especially if we get opposition fans come on the show as well. Like we don't rub it in their face or anything. But yes, I do wear my heart on my sleeve a little bit too much, whereas the other part of the Met team are a bit more analytical and thoughtful. But I'm doing it literally after the game, so my emotions are sky high at that point, whether we've won or lost. So
there you go. There you go.
I embrace that.
Well, Ben, I hope you have a fantastic Sunday. Okay, and I hope the weather stays wonderful for as long as possible for you. We were down earlier this week to minus 36 Celsius.
Wow.
And when it was that cold, I was talking to somebody that lives a couple of hours west of Brisbane, and it was 47 Celsius there. So a 83 degree difference there. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Unbelievable.
No thanks.
Unbelievable. Well,
enjoy that. I'll pass.
Have a great day, and I truly appreciate you coming on. And feel free to ask your friends that question. See how they do on that one.
Will.
I mean, I thought I looked at that. And I thought I've got to ask that one because that was it. I do a little bit of digging on the AFL tables and just that one popped up. So
108. There you go.
All right.
Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
You bet.
I love having a chat.
Cheers. Bye-bye. See ya. All right, Ben. Thanks so very much for taking time to sit down and chat. I am looking forward to a very exciting Cats season. Lots of new young faces who are going to be stepping up and. Let's got to be honest here that mullet that's going to be running around Cardinia Park now in our hoops rather than that red, white, and blue is going to be an awesome sight. Okay. And I'm really, really excited about seeing that. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember you can find everything about my podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. I do hope you'll shoot me an email at ayankonthefooty@gmail.com if you got a comment as well. You can leave a review over there as well. You can find me at Yank_on X, or the Yank on the Footy podcast on Facebook, and Yank on the Footy at Instagram. I do hope you'll give me a follow over there as well. Subscribe over on YouTube and give it a listen there as well. I try to put as many episodes up there as I can. YouTube is a little bit more, I don't want to say labor intensive, if you will. And again, this is a hobby for me. And if you'd like to help out this hobby and help to keep the lights on, if you will, you can certainly, click that buy me a coffee button on my website, or check out my store page over at Redbubble as well, and maybe pick up a podcast sticker and tell people how much you enjoy the show. But ladies and gentlemen, if you need to talk to somebody, please reach out to them. Okay. If somebody needs to talk to you, check up on your friends, make sure they're okay. Those numbers are in the show notes of every single episode. If you feel that you need to speak to somebody, the world's a much, much better place with you in it. So please don't hesitate to reach out and talk to somebody. Okay. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, may your dribble kick never hit the post. I will catch you later. And this has been episode 365, the fifth preview episode for 2025 with the Geelong Cats. And again, share the podcast episode with your friends and family, ladies and gents. And until next time, cheers and goodbye.